your commander-in-chief or the head of state standing up against China. So why should we provide you assistance if you yourself hasn't put your house in order? So,
Okay.
that's so dito pumapasok yung next year election. The type of leader the Filipino nation
But wait
should
a
choose.
minute, Professor.
Yes.
What happens if these Chinese ships, these 200 plus Chinese ships, decide to just build another runway, another
Artificial
bunker,
island.
artificial island. Paano na yan? Nasa loob na yan ng exclusive economic zone natin yan. Kumbaga hindi na yan pinag-aawa yan, squatter na yan.
Yeah, well, then we have to confront it. Katulad na nangyari nung Scarborough Shoals standoff for about 2 months. We have a standoff, but there was a deal, but of course China reneged on the deal. So
Pwede bang pumasok yung Quad Group, yung Australia, Canada, the US, sino pa ba yung ika-apat? Nakalimutan ko na.
Japan.
Pwede ba silang pumasok pro bono, promoto ba yun? Yung parang on their own, say, excuse me.
Yes, that's their national interest. This is
Yeah.
their national interest. Their national interest is to prevent China's maritime expansion into the South China Sea. Plus, of course, even the United States. Last year, the State Department announced that U.S. position in the South China Sea will be based on the arbitral ruling. So it is, of course,
last year during Trump's.
Yes, a day after we acknowledge it. Secretary Locsin acknowledged it Monday. Sunday. I still remember Sunday. The following day, former Secretary Michael Pompeo announced that U.S. position vis-a-vis the South China Sea issue would be based on the arbitral ruling. They would, of course, object. They would challenge. But of course, once they enter the picture, alis na tayo dyan. Manonood na lang tayo. This will be a game of what great powers play.
Okay, you mentioned the word game. Ako naman, strategy. In terms of a strategy, what if you wait for the next utterance of that ambassador and then give him a stern warning, one more statement like that and we kick you out? And then if he does it again, you kick him out again. Kumbaga, pinaparamdam na natin sa China, excuse me, bastusan na yung ginagawa ninyo, eto, pumapalag na kami. Kasi, as you pointed out, Malacanang, President Rodrigo Duterte himself has essentially compromised the situation.
So, of course, the question here, does this administration have the guts to do it? Does it have what it takes to stand up? Yeah, stand up.
But as a political analyst, what is to be gained by what he is doing? Because he's talking about President Duterte. I'm honestly, sincerely, fairly trying to understand what's his game. Because has this been seen in any other president or in a similar situation? We'll go for a quick break, Professor.
Sure.
And can you answer that? What is to be gained by this strategy of appeasement and diplomacy with China? We'll be right back here on Agenda. Okay, you're back here on Agenda. I'm your host, Hito Beltran. You're watching us via Signal TV channels 8 and 250 through the assistance and network of PLDT fiber, home fiber internet. And let's go back to our first guest, Professor Renato Cruz de Castro. Professor.
Morning again.
Okay, so
Great.
what is to be gained? What is your reading of this appeasement strategy?
Number one, it might have something to do with yung worldview ng ating presidente, no? This is my analysis.
Mm.
Probably he hates the United States so much for whatever reason.
Mm.
So his policy is basically, I will be close to your rival in the region, and that is of course China. Of course, meron ding element doon na probably we could avail of some fundings from China for the Build program. And the other element, which I believe the president is very much sincere, is that he is afraid that we might be caught in the major, just in case you have a conflict between China and the United States, we will be caught in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
In his several speeches that I have, of course, monitored, this is a common theme. No, just before he decided to unilaterally abrogate the BFA last year, in an interview with a Russian cable channel, he mentioned this. When he announced that, we will not join any military exercises by Japan or the US, he mentioned this again. And I think he recently mentioned this. We have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Probably he's sincere that he's afraid that we will be caught in the middle. But of course, this is really our case.
Okay.
No? We are in this situation, between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah, I'll have to make it quick. But are we in any sort of treaty agreement? Kasi, kumbaga, kung may dokumento, may kontrata, at may pinag-uusapan, at least everything is fine and good. I have not heard of any treaty entered into with China that will ensure the relationship, protect the interests, and justify this diplomatic appeasement policy.
Wala naman. No? It's part of the policy of this administration. No? Sa economics siguro, yung mga strategic, usually China will ask us to sign, for example, sa trade, strategic partnership. No? May mga ganon. Pero nothing very specific. It's really
nothing to do with the West Philippine Sea.
Nothing to do. Ang pinaka-ano dyan, of course, yung code of conduct, the Chinese promise that they hope that the code of conduct will be concluded by the time President Duterte leaves the office. Parang to give him a legacy. No, but
Okay.
I don't know if that will happen next year.
Okay, so may binubuong code of conduct, pero in the meantime, puro misconduct.
Well, ayun nga, ayun yung yung between ASEAN and China. It's not between the Philippines, it's between ASEAN and China. And of course, the Philippines is the chair for this. And of course, this was promised by no less than President Xi Jinping to President Duterte in August 2019 that we will see to it that we would conclude the negotiation for the code of conduct by the time you step down.
Okay, last question ko na lang, Professor De Castro. There were other countries previously who sided, appeased, and basically obeyed China. If I'm not mistaken, one of them was Cambodia and another parang African state ba or something. Kumbaga, nakisama sila, sumunod sila sa direksyon ng China. Did they benefit? Can you think of countries who did this, what we're doing, and what were the outcomes for those countries?
Well, Cambodia kasi wala naman silang talagang dispute with China. In fact, they have a common enemy, that's Vietnam. Ang isang country talagang nasunog siya when he thought China is a friend is India. Nung panahon pa ni Nehru, ni Chou Enlai. Di ba magkasama pa sila na finorm nila yung non-aligned movement with Indonesia sa Bandung. All the time, kala ni Nehru, no? na kaibigan niya China until of course you have this clash, this border clash between India and China in October 1962.
Yeah.
Then Nehru realized, no, when it comes to territorial issues, it's non-negotiable, even if China considers you as its friend.
Yeah, and recently that happened as well. I think
And that's
last
happened
year,
as well. Yeah,
last
yes.
year
Yeah, oh,
nagkabarilan at may
oh,
mga napatay na mga Indian yata,
yes.
Indian
Oh,
nationals. So,
oh. Kaya pumasok ulit ngayon ng India sa Quad. Doon na-realize
uh-huh.
ng India yung importansya ng Quad. So ang bottom line here, whether China, you consider China as a friend or not, there's only one thing consistent with China. When it comes to territorial issue, it's non-negotiable.
And masaklap, but as my friend Bert Baksal, who passed away a number of years ago, nagbibiro siya lagi and he would tell me, in the end, China wins. Sana naman po, wag mangyari yan in this situation. Thank you very much.
Hopefully. Thank you very much
Okay.
again.
Professor Renato Cruz de Castro, thank you very much for your inputs and have a great day, sir.
I have forgotten it. Okay, Doc.
Okay. Anyway, yung doc na yun, sinabi ni Doc ni Prof, yun po ay goodbye or thank you in Dutch kasi nag-aral din siya sa Holland. Okay, let's go naman for our next guest kasi alam niyo po mga kaibigan, there's been a lot of conversation, discussion, and push for alternative medicines and off-label use of existing medicines, katulad ng ivermectin, katulad nung hydroxychloroquine, etc. And then yung of course ginagamit na yung remdesivir. Kahapon po ay nakatanggap ako, I received a group chat message that my friend Pastor Ricky Vistan, who has been in the ICU for a week, okay, and really fighting the battle of his life. Pinag-uusapan na raw ng mga doktor yung Leronlimab para gagamitin. And biglang naalala ko sandali, may alam akong nagpadala sa akin ng information. Let's speak with one of my friends sent me an info package on that particular topic, and by chance, nabanggit yung Dr. Randy Nicolas. So let's bring in Dr. Randy Nicolas, Associate Professor of Surgery at the University of the Philippines, Philippine General Hospital. Dr. Randy, are you there?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Beltran. Thank you for having me this morning.
Oh, okay, Doc Randy, just call me Sito. No formalities here. I think we have a common goal, searching for alternative solutions, medicines, whatever we can put together, including the kitchen sink, and throw it at COVID-19. Yesterday, I got a message that the doctors attending to my pastor here in Lipa City were considering using, my tongue gets tied with this medicine, Leronlimab. And given your expertise in medicine, could you please help us understand what is the situation for alternative medicines, off-label medicines, and in particular this Leronlimab?
Well, thank you, Sito, for giving me this opportunity to talk to your viewers. Now, Leronlimab, any medication that ends with the letters MAB. For example, tocilizumab, which is now being used for COVID, as well as bamlanivimab. These are all monoclonal antibodies, meaning to say they are they were initially derived from a murine model, mouse model, and humanized. And they were tested for safety and efficacy and things like that for any other treatment regimen. But particularly for this drug, leronlimab, this has passed. It's the only therapeutic to have passed a phase 3 trial for critical COVID-19, meaning to say those patients who are fighting for their lives,
Mhm.
this is the only medication that has shown to have a survival benefit. And I'm talking about a significant survival benefit. The initial evidence for this drug came, as you remember, in 2001, we had a SARS epidemic. This hit
Okay.
countries such as China, Macau, Hong Kong, hit Hong Kong really bad. Taiwan, it spread to Europe and Canada. Eventually, it was contained, but after that year of that epidemic, there was a lot of research into the disease progression. So they found out that there were two phases of COVID disease. One is the virologic phase. The virus is present in your bloodstream, and you have all the constitutional symptoms of the virus: body aches, fever, cough, body malaise, and stuff like that. But there's a second phase of the disease. It's an immunologic phase, wherein your immune system goes into hyper vigilance, if you might call it. And ironically, it does not attack the virus itself, but it starts attacking itself, your body. That's the reason why you have patients who go into a phenomenon we call acute respiratory distress syndrome, wherein your lungs fill up with your own body fluid, and essentially you're drowning in your own body fluid. And that's the reason, because the immunologic phase initiates a something we call a cytokine storm.
Yeah.
And it's the cytokine storm that leads to all the grave complications of COVID-19. Basically, it's not the virus that kills the individual, it's your own immune system that kills you.
Mhm.
And
I,
that
I
is
I
the,
noticed I noticed that while you were describing that pattern, Doc Randy, that's exactly what's been happening to my pastor. He had the first phase, he was okay, he landed in the ICU, and then kicked in this second phase that you're talking about, the
correct.
filling of fluids in the lung, the elevated heart rate, etc., etc. And the doctors were saying that he was having a severe cytokine situation, and that's when they started using the tocilizumab.
Tocilizumab.
Yeah, they used that, and now they were talking about this leronlimab. So continue, doctor.
Yes, cytokine storm. If you want to be graphic about it, make your viewers understand what cytokine storm is. Let's say cytokine storm is a weed in your garden, something you don't want in your garden.
Mm-hmm.
If you give, for example, cytokine storm has a lot of branches, and the precursor, which is the root, is a cytokine we call CCL5, or in scientific parlance, it's called RANTES, RANTES. This RANTES is the precursor cytokine, which leads into the cytokine storm, and left unchecked, it will lead to a cascade of cytokine release. One of these cytokines is interleukin 6. This is the target actually for tocilizumab. But you need to understand, your viewers need to understand, if cytokine storm were a weed, interleukin 6 is a branch. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot kill the weed, or you cannot stop the weed by cutting off the branches. You need to go to the root. The root is CCL5, which is blocked by leronlimab.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now what's the background of this leronlimab? Because the one thing, there's a debate whether to use it or not to use it, and so out there in our medical horror theater, if I may say that, uh, people are in a quandary. Do we use this for compassionate use? Is that off-label use? Dapat bang gamitin yan? Para lang yan sa mga hayop or etc. Leronlimab is for humans. What is the background of the medicine itself?
Yes, the medicine was discovered in 1995, I believe, and it was
Mhm.
sitting on a shelf of the inventor Paul Madden, and eventually it was resurrected by the company that we call now Cytodyne Incorporated in the U.S. And initially, it was designed as an anti-HIV drug. The
Mhm.
reason being is that the receptor that HIV virus uses to enter the immune cell is the same receptor that leronlimab blocks to prevent cytokine storm. It's the
Mhm.
same receptor that HIV goes in. So they did a study beginning in 2000 and 2012, I believe. The study for HIV resulted into very, very promising results, and they're looking at perhaps even a monotherapy of the leronlimab for HIV. And it just so happened during 2020 when, I mean, late 2019 when COVID-19 hit, immediately the doctors who had identified the immunologic phase of the first SARS epidemic in 2001, they immediately started looking for the CCR, a potential CCR5 blocker to uh,
Mhm.
to help stop the cytokine storm. And one thing led to another, and leronlimab was the main candidate for CCR5 blockage.
So essentially, when we had the outbreak and they identified the key ingredient of that COVID-19 virus, everybody, all the doctors and scientists said, "What weapons do we have on the shelf for this kind of problem?" And leronlimab was one of those few
Correct.
weapons available. Now, so people will say, okay, it blocks that particular component of COVID-19, but so what did you guys test it? Because that seems to be always the issue right now with
Correct.
off-label medicines. Oh, was there? You mentioned a phase three testing. Was this testing for COVID or was this testing for HIV?
Yes, the HIV trial is already completed. They submitted their biological license agreement already
Mm-hmm.
to the US FDA. The phase three trial, it was called the CD12 trial, was particularly for severe critical COVID 19. And
Severe critical
COVID
uh,
19,
COVID-19. Okay.
yes. And it was designed for the to battle or to stop the cytokine storm.
Mm.
And the studies were actually quite remarkable. The drug is given by subcutaneous injection, meaning to say you don't even need an IV line to have the drug administered. It is given like an insulin shot,
Mm-hmm.
so it can be administered at home. The drug is given on a weekly basis because, excuse me, because the serum plasma levels seem to peak at the third day and remain peaked all the way until the sixth day and starts to wane down on the seventh day. That's the reason why the dosing is weekly. It's not a daily dose, it's a weekly dose. And
Mm-hmm.
a majority of patients, they recover only after two doses. A majority of patients. And the remarkable thing is, at day 14, meaning 2 weeks, so that is after the second dose, 2 weeks after the first dose was given, there was an 82% survival advantage among the most critically sick COVID 19 patients. There was a 5 time higher likelihood that you would be alive at day 14 with leronlimab as compared to standard of care. And if you plot a 7 point ordinal scale, which is just a table or a list of symptoms that you plot, and you see how the patient progresses. There was a 400% advantage with leronlimab as compared to standard of care. This was at day 14.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, the only criticism with the study was that the drug was stopped at the second dose. Many of the patients that did not recover after day 14 progressed, their disease immunologic phase progressed, and without the leronlimab being given on the third and subsequent fourth dose, the patients sort of tapered down. The survival sort of tapered down, which is also proof of concept that if you continue leronlimab, then you can surmise or you can extrapolate that survival will also be a lot better down the line.
Okay,
So the
I'm wondering, Doc Randy, why? I mean, if it's a trial, if it's testing, clinical observation, why stop? I mean, you've got a good thing going here. Why are we going to stop? Why
that is
stop at 2 doses?
that is the very good question, Sito. That is what the initial doctors in the trial were criticizing the protocol. The study protocol was designed just for 2 doses, and
Mm,
yes, and they said we had wanted the third and fourth dose. That's the reason why there's a new CD16 trial just for critical COVID using 4 doses instead of 2. But as we speak, an EUA application, an emergency use authorization, was applied for at the US FDA, the UK MHRA, Health Canada, Brazil, and I also actually was able to get the same company summary. It was an executive summary addendum that I submitted also to our FDA so that they can examine the data as well.
okay, let's go for a quick break, Doc Randy, and when we return, let's talk about cost, distribution, availability, etc. Because I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. If I can break into your house right now, and I know that you have leronlimab, I might steal or
How,
rob you of the medicine. But
how
we'll go
many?
for a quick break. We'll go for a quick break.
All right.
Okay, you're back here on Agenda, and we are speaking with Dr. Randy Nicolas, Associate Professor of Surgery at the UP-PGH. Ladies and gentlemen, just to put you back in focus, we are talking about leronlimab as one of those potentially available medicines to fight COVID. Now, leronlimab, as per my discussion with Dr. Randy, it has been tested only for severe critical cases of COVID-19. There were a 2 injection test protocol. It was a testing process And in that testing process, it was proven that the effect was so good that most people who were in critical COVID improved drastically. Their survival rate increased. The only problem was because the protocol testing allowed only 2 injections within a period of 2 weeks, if I understand correctly, Dr. Randy. They could not tell if it should have continued because when they stopped the 2 injections, some of the patients started to go downhill. Now, Doc Randy, uh, you were talking about applications being given for emergency use authority to the US FDA, UK Health Ministry, etc., etc. What about in the Philippines? Are the manufacturers of Lorenlimab has applied, or what is the status for emergency use authorization?
Yes, during last year, I had been working quite almost every single day trying to get a partnership going between the company in the U.S. and a distributor partner here. Sito, just as a disclosure, I am doing this completely pro bono. I have no financial connection with either company. But
Mm-hmm.
I was able to establish a partnership with a local distributor named Chiral Pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
Chiral Pharmaceuticals is a Philippine distributor of pharmaceutical products, and they partnered with Cytodyne and were appointed as the local distributor for Leronlimab in the country. Unfortunately, the Philippine FDA requires, as one of the most important criteria for EUA approval here in the Philippines, is that the drug is also EUA approved either in the country of origin or in a country with a similar regulatory arm such as our own FDA. So
Mm-hmm.
if it were approved, for example, um, if the US, for example, delayed approval and the UK approved first, then we can still go ahead with the EUA application here in the Philippines. Right now, the drug is only available under compassionate special permit,
Mm-hmm.
meaning to say we cannot physically import the drug unless we have an, a compassionate special permit that is signed and approved by the FDA per patient or per group of patients.
Okay, so availability is only made only if the Food and Drug Administration of the Philippines gives you written consent to import the medicine. Who can import the medicine? Is it a physician? Is it the Cairo Pharmaceutical Group? Who is allowed to import under compassionate use?
Yes. The compassionate special permit requires the attending doctor of the patient who needs leronlimab to fill up a single page application for compassionate special permit. And once the paperwork has been submitted to the FDA requires approximately around 24 to 48 hours for approval. So it's quite fast.
Mhm.
But the problem lies in the fact that the drug is not available in the Philippines physically, so it needs
Mhm.
to be imported, which takes in my experience the fastest it took was 3 days to import it, and the only entity that can import the drug is Chiral Pharmaceuticals.
Mhm.
The individual doctor cannot import it on his own.
Okay. Now, let's talk about cost and efficacy because that has been, as far as the vaccines go, people were asking about efficacy. Uh, can you explain this in layman's term, the efficacy
Yes.
of this medicine and the cost of this medicine?
Yes, the efficacy, as I said, is quite remarkable. We have an 82% survival advantage in the. When I say critical, Sito, these are the patients on life support. on a ventilator with cardiac medications just to keep your heart running.
Mhm.
There was a remarkable case report from the UK of a man being on ECMO. ECMO is extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, meaning
Yeah,
to say a patient cannot breathe with just a ventilator because he has already flooded his entire lungs. So
yeah.
what we do is we connect the patient, just like as we connect the patient for open heart surgery to a heart lung machine. But
Mhm.
in this instance, it's called ECMO. Essentially, it's just a heart lung machine. It's a
Yeah.
machine with an artificial lung that breathes for the patient. This patient in the UK was on ECMO for 16 plus days. He already had signed he was already given last rites. And they had to go to court just to have leronlimab administered under compassionate use in the UK.
Mhm.
Surprisingly, 5 days later, after the first dose, the patient was off ECMO. He was breathing on his own, but on high flow oxygen. 9 days. This was 4 days after the second dose. 4 days after, the patient was off oxygen. So this is remarkable. A
Yeah.
pattern of yes,
Yeah. Now,
and
okay. Yeah, go ahead, Doc.
And and this is the thing. One thing that had never been asked me was, what's the safety profile?
Yeah.
I have a document in my possession right now. I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement because it's the document from the HIV trial. It's a 5,000 document that that examines just the safety profile of the drug. The reason why it's so long is because many of these HIV patients on the trial with leronlimab were on leronlimab for even more than 5 years continuous. There was no death associated with the administration of the drug. The side effects or the adverse effects that were listed were just nine. This was nine out of 900 plus patients. And the nine adverse effects were ranging from injection site irritation, headache. Two patients had diarrhea, and one patient had something we call a precancerous skin lesion called actinic keratosis. So those were the only um, adverse effects that were listed. So it is extremely, extremely safe. The safety profile is very, very good.
Okay.
As for cost,
Yeah,
as for
because
cost,
you mentioned the echo machine. I know that in a hospital here in Manila, it's 1 million a day. So if you
on
ended
ECMO,
up, yeah, ECMO machine, an ECMO machine here is 1 million pesos a day, and 60 days is 60 million. Now, you
see,
said Leronlimab is one injection a week. How much is that going to cost?
yes, the initial manufactured suggested retail price, as as suggested in the US, is 1,350 US dollars. But this is the good news I have. I just received a a proposal from the company in the US that markedly brings down the cost per dose if the drug is purchased wholesale. So at
Hmm.
wholesale, we can. I can't. I'm sorry, I cannot divulge the the
The
exact price
volume?
yet. Yes, the
Okay.
exact price, but it is markedly less, and it's very much competitive with the price of a full course of tocilizumab, for example.
Okay, so as far as that's concerned, okay. Well, it puts it in the price range of remdesivir, doesn't that? Doesn't it?
Remdesivir requires a longer course, so it turns out to be a little bit more expensive. Some patients will spend approximately around between 150 to 175,000 pesos for the full
Hmm.
course. I can tell you right now, at 4 doses with this new proposal from the company, it will be much less than that.
Okay, so much less as in, I mean, 70%, 75% cost or 50%? Any just guesstimate?
Probably in the range of around 20 to 25% less than a full course remdesivir.
Okay, so you guys do the math there, ladies and gentlemen, because I am not good at math. But in any case, Doc Randy, I think we've covered the entire presentation. Just one last question, because from what I've read of remdesivir, it reduces the hospital care stay
Stay.
or the ICU stay by like 3 to 4 days. With Leronlimab, what if you talk about days in intensive care? What are we talking about? How many days less?
6 days reduction.
So double
Yeah.
the reduction compared to remdesivir, and at the 75% cost of remdesivir. So that's Leronlimab. Well, I do hope our friends at the FDA are watching, listening, and even Malacanang, because whatever our politics, whatever our disagreements, whatever our frustrations, we all have one common goal: to find the medicines, to find the solution, and to save the lives of our friends and family. Thank you very much, Doc Randy, and thank you for all your information. Have a good day, sir.
It was my pleasure, Cito. Thank you. And
Okay.
good day to you too, sir.
Okay, that's Dr. Randy Nicolas, Associate Professor of Surgery, UP-PGH, and mapapansin po ninyo mga kaibigan, there are many physicians who are spending their own time and money to bring out medicines that may be off-label use, may be available only in America, may be available only in Japan, like Avigan. And the goal is to save lives, because alam nyo po, to be honest, God honest truth, I'm losing one friend a week. And it's beginning to get to me. And imagine if you are president, vice president, leader of this country, a doctor, you can just imagine the nightmare and the trauma they're going through. So I'm just appealing to all parties concerned. Let's set aside the debate. Kasi hindi kayo ang mamamatay, hindi naman kayo ang gumagastos ng milyong-milyong piso, hindi kayo ang hindi makatulog. I have not slept a wink all night. And please, if you are not part of the solution, do not be part of the problem. If you don't know the way, get out of the way. Kung wala po kayong magagawa, huwag kayong makipagtalo, be critical, or mang-fake news. Let's just pray for everyone to get healed. Thank you very much. I'm Cito Beltran. Have a good day.